Blessings and welcome to this is Mastering the Tool of Consciousness. It's a master class that I put together really just because this is my passion, and to for those of you that have been in the community for a while, some of this will look familiar. And for those of you that are new, I hope that this sparks something in you and gets you really curious about what consciousness is and how we can use it as a tool of mastery or a tool of ascension. So, if you have been with me a while, you also know that a big part of what I do is activating the frequency of DMT. So, DMT, yes, is a chemical that is released from your pineal gland, but we also relate to it as divine molecular technology. So your DNA has a specific frequency that is transcribed in it. And this is a molecular technology. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that is as we continue here. So, DMT on a chemical level is a lot of you know of this when you go to an ayahuasca retreat or you take a psychedelic. That is what is releasing from your pineal gland, and it brings in a higher state of consciousness. And what we focus on here is doing that in a very natural way. Way back in the day, I was about 18 years old, and this is a little bit, maybe a little embarrassing, but I'll go ahead and be vulnerable here. I used to be obsessed with doing psychedelics. It was really, I guess it wasn't necessarily that it was an escape for me. It was a challenge, and I loved the challenge that it gave me consciously. And I would do psychedelics, LSD for the most part, and I would go to school, like high school. And it would be the challenge for me to not get sucked in to what I call it, what you would call the psychedelic part of being on a psychedelic. And I would challenge myself to put my consciousness in the purest part of it. So if you've never done a psychedelic, another way that you can see this is you're looping in thoughts that are not helpful, and you start to spiral. So that would be what the psychedelic would do if you didn't master it. It would just take a hold of your mind, and it would take you places, and you would just be along for the ride. But a master will be able to control the trip and move on top of it to where the frequency is very, very clean. It is no different than what we do in a day-to-day life. It just gives us the focus and the challenge in a different way. But when we can master our thoughts and where we're holding consciousness, it is no different. It's a level of mastery, right? So this frequency of DMT, the chemical, is measured at 963 hertz. Well, guess what? The frequency of source is also measured at 963. And this frequency is released when you're born and when you die. And then it can be released in deep levels of meditation. And of course, if you're doing any sort of psychedelic. My passion is to release this frequency on a DNA level so that we can start to experience our DNA when all 12 strands are activated and working together. Most of us are only experiencing 2 of 12 strands of DNA, and that would be the experience of what I call the programmed body. So the two-strand DNA system is what science is studying. When you go to the doctor, they're treating 2 of 12 of your strands of DNA. If you go to an energy healer, of course, you're going to get a little bit more than just that. But for the most part, science is studying the body in two of 12. But the ironic thing is that science, because we're only focusing of two of 12, are actually studying reality through only two strands of DNA, meaning that we're studying matter and that's it. When we get into quantum physics, of course, we start to see that there is a lot more beyond that. Your body is the same way. You're multidimensional and you are much more than just matter. You are much more than just two because there are actually 12. As we start to look at our body on a multidimensional level, we start to see where we can operate from. When we know our body as a multidimensional technology, and I'm going to use that word technology because just like anything else, you can learn to use it. Your DNA is the most advanced technology there is. And that's a big statement. And there may be a day where we master this technology and find out that there's something beyond that. But even the DNA that we have to fully activate it and to experience it consciously is so beyond our understanding that we can't even fathom what we are capable of. It's very exciting to think of that. And our consciousness is a tool that we can use to learn to operate this technology. Our consciousness is not who we are. It is just a reflection of the frequency that is transcribed in our DNA. Another way of saying that is our consciousness is the observation of our reality. Think about that. Your consciousness is the part of you that is observing your reality. When we say, "Oh, I became conscious of that," all of a sudden we moved from one reality to another. Consciousness is a tool, but when we see consciousness as an identity, then we are limiting what we really are. When we step back and we learn how to use consciousness as a tool, we open up to a whole nother level. So it is time to shift consciousness from our programming, the programmed body, the programmed mind, our programmed reality, and shift it into the experience of the 12-strand DNA system. Another way of saying that, it's learning to attune our consciousness to that frequency of source. And when we start to do that, we start to tap into an intelligence that's beyond what we are experiencing in this programmed reality. I'm just going to just step back and just have you sit in this for just a minute. Science has already proven that what we focus on becomes our reality. And if we are programmed to focus on matter, if we are focused to see our body as this is who we are, if we are sick and we think, oh, well, this is what's happening, we have something happening in our reality and we think that that is true. We have a thought run through our mind and we think that it is true. Consciousness is the ability to see what that is and move beyond it. That's how we use consciousness as a tool. And you can see how important that would be when you're trying to advance to higher levels, higher frequencies, to shift your reality, to shift your health, to shift the way you think, the way you feel. We can't do it from the same state that created the reality that we're in, right? We have to be able to attune to something beyond that. And if we don't have the tools to know how to do that, we keep looping. We may change it for a little bit and then we end up right back where we started. And there's a reason for that because there's a tool that we can use to attune our consciousness to a frequency beyond our programming. And we also have to learn to keep it there. So, with that, let's look at one of the easiest ways to know what state of consciousness you're in, because consciousness has all sorts of levels. So, the first state is we all have it. We will have it multiple times over and over and over again. And every time we think, oh, we have it. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, there I go again. And that's just being unconscious. That's when we're just not aware of something. And then there's always some of us will have our big awakening where maybe we are living life in a very unconscious state. We are choosing a lot of things unconsciously and following along with the collective program. And then all of a sudden we have a big event and we wake up and recognize that we were making all of our choices, not from our heart, but what we were programmed to choose. So some of us have that awakening. And then for most of us, we have little awakenings along the way, right? We'll just awaken here and there, and we'll awaken and we create a choice. And then we go on this whole ascension journey to create a different choice or a different reality from a different choice. So that brings us to that second level of consciousness, which is the awakening. It's when we wake up to what we were unconscious of. And sometimes these are big things, and other times they're subtle. We have so many times in our daily life that we could make minute micro choices that will literally create a new reality if we live by this and we focus on going from unconsciousness to consciousness. In this awakening stage is normally when we have the choice because we woke up, we all of a sudden have two different realities that we're faced with, right? It's either we go and we continue doing what we were doing when we were unconscious, or we choose something different. And a lot of times when we have that choice of choosing something different, we get excited because we know we don't have to live the life that we were living when we were unconscious. This moves us into that third level of consciousness. And this is the level of consciousness that a lot of us get stuck in. And that's trying to make it happen. It's trying to make it a change. And you hear me saying the word trying. I am trying to change this. What we want to do is shift from trying to attuning. Another way of saying this is that we want to shift from consuming to attuning. Okay, think about that word consuming. Consuming information, thinking, oh, the more I know, the more I'll change. When we get to this level of consciousness, we're going to hang out there for a while, right? We're going to try to make it happen. But the problem with this level of consciousness is that when we try, we're going into what we know. We'll go into what worked in the past. We'll go and see what worked for somebody else. We try. We try to find the answer and we try things, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. We're going to try things, but most often when we do that, we start to loop because we're not actually moving out of a frequency that we're already holding. So how do we do that? We move into the fourth level of consciousness. And this is the level of consciousness that takes practice and it takes tools to be able to stay in. And that's the listen and do. The listen and do. It's the ability to move outside of what we know or somebody else knows. And we listen to that intelligence that's stored in our DNA. Source frequency, source intelligence. It's the ability to move out of the matrix and into a very clean frequency that has information, it has clear guidance, and it has the ability to guide us into a reality that is beyond our understanding. So we listen, we allow, we attune, and then we go do what we're told. We're going to talk more about this here in a little bit. And then, of course, the fifth level of consciousness is when we actually move beyond even listening and doing. And this is when consciousness merges with that frequency of source and becomes one with source. And ironically, this is when consciousness is no longer needed because the tool of consciousness is not needed when we become the intelligence of source. And that's kind of a big statement. And it's one that I want you to sit in maybe later tonight, really sit in. What would it mean for my consciousness to hit the frequency of source, merge with that frequency? Would consciousness even be needed at that point? Because you become the intelligence, right? It's kind of exciting. That's where we're all heading. So there's another way of knowing what level of consciousness you're in, because we want to talk about that we are the body, right? Our experience of the body is very much connected to our consciousness. So knowing what our body is experiencing is a big indicator of where we are consciously. So if we are unconscious, we are reacting to life. And we all know what it feels like when our body is reacting to life. It's when you have the cortisol and you may feel stressed. Somebody might say hi and you're in a bad mood and you snap at them. But that feels, you can feel that in your body, right? Your body feels tense. It feels heavy. It might feel tired. It feels stressed, right? So the primal body is when you're reacting because your body is releasing chemicals, but you're not even aware of it. How many people know those people that you have to walk on eggshells because you don't know who you're going to get when they show up and when they walk in the room? That's the primal body. Then we work into the awakening, and that becomes what I call the chemical body. And that's like when the emotion that I was talking about, when we wake up and we have a choice, and all of a sudden we get a little excited and, oh, this is exciting. I get to choose something different. And a lot of times, our body, because we woke up and we're excited to move into a higher frequency, will release chemicals like oxytocin, dopamine, maybe even serotonin, because it wants you to move into a higher frequency. That part of your DNA wants you to merge with the frequency of source. So it'll give you a little boost of inspiration of, yeah, you get to choose something different. Unfortunately, if we don't know how to hold consciousness, a lot of times the chemical of the awakening will run out. And then we're stuck with trying to make the choices. And that's when we move into that third level of consciousness and we're trying to make it happen. And at that point, the nervous system has taken over. Okay. And then when the nervous system takes over is when we start to repeat habits because it's what our body knows and it's comfortable. So we have that little boost of dopamine, and then the dopamine runs out, and then the nervous system takes over, and we start to repeat habits, and we stick in that, and we're stuck in that third level of consciousness. But then when we move into the quantum body, we know what that feels like because we're in the listen and do. And that's when our body feels still. It feels grounded. We feel stable. We feel at peace. And that's when we're in the listen and do. And we're going to fluctuate between all of these 5 stages at different steps of the way as we ascend consciousness. And then I put next to the 5th level of consciousness is the advanced human. This is when all 12 strands of DNA are fully activated and we are 100% human potential. It's where we're all going. Okay, so now we're going to do our exercise so that you can tell the difference between if you are in the 3rd level of consciousness or the 4th level of consciousness. So I want everyone to shut their eyes. And if you've done this, I'm just going to invite you to do this again. So go ahead and shut your eyes. And I want you to imagine a rainbow. Just imagine what a rainbow would look like. And notice what it feels like in your body when you are imagining a rainbow. Okay, so now open your eyes. And now I want you to just even shake that out. Shake out that experience. We're going to reset. Now I want you to shut your eyes again. And I want you to go into your heart space. And we're going to activate the frequency of 963 from every cell of your body, from your DNA, that 12-strand DNA system, releasing the frequency of source. And we're going to ask that source, the frequency of source, show you a rainbow. You're no longer imagining, you're allowing the frequency of the intelligence of your DNA to show you a rainbow. And just allow that to happen. You may feel something, you may hear something, you may see something. Just allowing yourself to have the experience, allowing it to happen outside of your imagination. And then when you're ready, just go ahead and open your eyes. And what I really want you to focus on is how your body feels different, how the experience is different. It's more peaceful, right? You're not trying, you're not imagining, you're allowing. And we're going to do this another exercise that's similar to this. So remember that experience and we'll come back to it. So now we're going to talk a little bit about intuition. So intuition is our senses in the multidimensional state. As you begin to turn on the 12-strand DNA system and you start to experience that system consciously, you start to use consciousness as a tool, you're going to start to experience intuition as your advanced human state, meaning that you'll see without seeing, you'll hear without hearing, you're going to know without thinking, and you're going to feel before an emotional response. And that one's really fun. So we're going to play with that one a little bit. What does it mean to use intuition as an advanced superpower, as the advanced human? Intuition, when it is mastered, is the ability to receive information beyond your programming. It is a tool that is directly connected to consciousness. So before we go there, I want to talk a little bit about the difference between a feeling and an emotion. And in this case, what we're talking about is the difference between a chemical response of the body. So if we go back to that primal body, it could be your body responding to your environment and more on that cortisol or stressful level. But it also can mean that rush that we get when we wake up and we have a choice and the dopamine is flooding and we get excited and we're ready to go change our life. All of that is fine. There's nothing wrong with that because we can actually use emotion as a tool of ascension when we know what's happening in the body. It's when the chemical body takes over our consciousness that we start to loop. Because then we start to choose based on wanting to feel something or not feel something based on emotion instead of frequency. The programmed body is connected to emotion. And that is, you can see it, it's like a Hertz wave. It's like you strum a guitar and you hear the vibration, you feel the vibration, but that frequency is eventually going to leave the room and you're no longer going to feel it and you're no longer going to hear it. Same thing with your emotions. They're fleeting. They actually say an emotion lasts 90 seconds unless we connect our consciousness to it and we create a reality around it or a program, which most of us experience on a daily basis. A frequency is connected to a feeling, and that's what happens after an emotion. But we can also connect our consciousness to the frequency of a feeling. So let me give you, and we're going to do an exercise. But when we start to see the emotion of joy, which I believe is measured at like, I wanted to say it's like 852, something like that. Somebody could look it up for me. Let's just say it's 800 hertz. If the emotion of joy is at 800 hertz, and that's if you strum a guitar, the emotion is of joy is in your body and you're feeling it, but then that vibration leaves the room and you're no longer feeling it. And so we want to go do something so that we can feel that again, right? But when we ask our DNA to release that frequency is released from our body and it is released as a scalar wave. And a scalar wave does not diminish over time and space. A scalar wave is directly related to life force energy. And so when we ask for a frequency of a feeling to release from our body, not only are we giving a frequency for our consciousness to move into and have the experience of, but we're also boosting our life force energy because scalar energy is directly related to life force energy. And when we take our life force energy and we're using it to create a reality consciously, we move outside of time and space. Why is that so? Because scalar frequency does not diminish over time and space. And we can experience that consciously. So if this is a little bit, oh my gosh, I lost it. I don't know what she's talking about. Don't worry, because we're going to have the experience here. And I always like to say it's words until you experience it. So we're going to experience it here. All right. So I think I talked about most of this. Let me just make sure. I think I kind of covered most of this. I think the biggest point is the two-strand DNA system is connected to the physical reaction, the physical response, the emotional or chemical response of the body. This is all conditioned. It's the primal body trying to keep you safe. It's the primal body that is connected to the programmed mind and is creating a reality over and over and over again. A great example of this would be, I don't know, pick somebody in your life that you hang out with a lot. And you have the same fight over and over again, and you feel the exact same way every single time. That is a looping cycle of the program body. And how many people know what I'm talking about? It happens, right? Because it's the program body. Okay, so now we're going to do a similar exercise that we did with the rainbow, but we're going to do it with an emotion. And this is a little bit of what came in last night that I'm going to add to this. It's just kind of a little new thing that I'm playing with. So I'm going to have this. So with this, I'm going to have you think of How can I say this? Either something that you're ready to release or ascend on an emotional level, or it could be something that you want more of. Okay, and either way, we're going to use a positive frequency to do it. So, what we're going to do is we're going to experience the difference between emotion on an intuitive level and you're in the same thing through frequency. So, let's all shut our eyes again. And if there's something that you're wanting to ascend as, all I want you to do, let's say you're just maybe feeling a little down or you want more energy or more inspiration. If there's an emotion that you're just wanting to call into your life, I just want you to call that into your life right now. So if it's something that you're wanting to let go of, do whatever the opposite of that is. So bringing that and just placing it in your heart space. And now I want you to think of the last time that you felt that way. Just bring up a memory of the last time that you felt that joy, inspiration, enthusiasm, love, whatever that emotion is that you're wanting to feel. Just bring that into your heart space and sit in the memory of what it felt like to be in that emotion. And just see if you can feel that in your body. And now I want you to just bring all of your awareness, your consciousness, into what your body is feeling. You can bring it into the memory. And now I want you to put your consciousness almost like on the back, just like almost as if you're observing it. So now I want you to step out and just observe yourself having this feeling, having this memory. And just feel like what it feels like to step outside of it and just observe it. Just like you would a TV, you're just observing yourself. And from this place, we're going to activate the frequency of the emotion that you're calling in. And we're going to activate it on a DNA level. We're going to convert it from a Hertz wave to a scalar wave. So asking your DNA to release the frequency of the emotion you're wanting to feel. Just feeling that turn on in your body. You're just having the experience. You don't have to do anything. And if you don't feel anything, that's okay. Know that it's happening. And as that frequency turns on, I want you to move from observing to attuning. So just like you would match a tuning fork to a piano key, you're going to match your consciousness to the frequency that's being released. You're just going to allow your consciousness to move right into the frequency. And you're just holding it in the frequency. You're allowing it to attune. And just feeling that. And as you're attuning, just stay open and curious to any messages that may come in, any inspired solutions or clear guidance. And it may be that nothing happens. A lot of times the guidance and those hits don't come till later. Just allowing your body to hold that frequency and allowing your consciousness to have the experience. So we're going to go from here right into an activation. So if there is an intention that you would like to use this frequency of this emotion and manifest in your life, I'm going to have you put that in your heart space right now. So this could be a project you're working on, maybe a relationship, a new job. It doesn't matter what it is, just bring an intention into your heart space. And as you're in this frequency, attuning your consciousness, we're going to activate a few codes on a DNA level. So the first code that we're going to activate is DMT code number 1. This is activating new thought, new beginnings, the innovator, the ability to start anew. As this frequency releases from your DNA, it's almost as if you are uploading a new frequency into a software, your divine molecular technology. Releasing that frequency on a scalar wave, putting your body beyond space and time, allowing your consciousness to experience new ideas, new beginnings, new relationship to how you experience your consciousness. And then we're going to activate DMT code number 7. Feeling this code as it activates in every cell of your body, attuning your consciousness, allowing clear communication with source frequency, the divine, your high self, whatever word feels right for you there. This code is connecting you just like a direct phone line to hearing and experiencing clear communication beyond your programmed mind. Just feeling that you almost can feel it as it activates within your mind, as it clears out those dense synapse responses and opens up higher frequencies, realigning those old programs with the frequency of source. Allowing these new ideas, these new beginnings to have clear, direct guidance into your next, into the creation of your intention. And then we're going to activate DMT code number 9, allowing you to hold mastery in this clear guidance, allowing you to experience this guidance, to follow through on this guidance and not be sucked into the matrix. This is the master of the matrix, the master of consciousness. Just feeling this as it activates in every cell of your body, as all 3 of these codes work to hold your body in a field or a frequency that is designed to bring your intention into reality, outside of your programming, outside of the reality that you know, allowing you to step into your next to experience what it is to be a creator, a conscious creator in the 12-strand DNA system. And just allowing your consciousness to feel what your body is feeling right now. Knowing that as you move forward, that you stay open and curious and allow the frequency of your body to lead the way. Allowing your consciousness to continue to attune to this, receiving the information, and then actively making choices in the guidance that you receive. And now just place your hands on your heart, just feeling grateful to receive and being willing to stay open and curious and how this frequency can change your life, change the way you think, bring you into higher perspectives. It's all available to you. Staying in that fourth level of consciousness, the listen and do. And then just taking in a deep breath and opening your eyes as you are ready. And I'm going to stop sharing here. And we will open it to the gallery where we will open it up to questions and answers. I never looked at the chat, so see if there's any. No, I didn't miss any questions, so that's good. Okay, well, this is your time. I'd love to hear feedback, if any new information came in for you, what your experience was. This is your time to kind of take it and ground it in, make it practical, how you can use this information in your daily life. There's no wrong question. Hi, Jody. Go ahead.
I don't have a question, but I had an interesting, I've done that exercise, envisioning a rainbow from both operating systems. And for some reason, in the container of your presentation today, which is so tight and so dynamic, thank you, it was just in slow motion. So you know, generally the difference is, in the higher operating system, it's in my cells. It doesn't even present really as a picture. But what it was almost like I've done this like 10 times maybe, but what was really shown to me this time was behind it, like colors came in, like, right? But it showed me that the colors were coming from programming, because we see like rainbows as color. And it was like this little, again, peek in, right? Now everybody's going to nod on that because we can all relate to it. But here's the deal. Where it really gets juicy, I think, is when we move to the 5 levels of consciousness, because that's the insidious, subtle programming, right, Jules, that can just like slip in. And, it just reminded me there's really something so sacred and beautiful about valuing moving slowly, and sort of life not being too crowded and too quick. It was just like this beautiful download in slow motion, by the way. But that, like, boy, the way that programming comes in again in the level of consciousness, this could be so subtle. Anyway, thank you. This is such a dynamic sort of, I don't know, you keep refining the experience. This was like so super high frequency for me and refined. So thank you.
Thank you. You know what it reminded me, as you said, the colors of the rainbow. And I believe, I don't know if Trish is on today, and I might mess this up, but we were talking about how we would see color through that 5th level. And it would be, so we talked about the color red. And instead of observing the color red, then how would we know the color red? And so it's kind of fun to play with that. So would it be? It would be to know the color red without observing the color red and to know it through the frequency of source. So that's just right there. I mean, we could sit and play in that and explore that with our consciousness and allowing our intuition to guide us in so many magical ways around just that one little thing. So if we could do that with the color red, just think what we could do that in all aspects of our life. We just have to know how to use consciousness to be able to do that. So it's not using consciousness as an identity, but using it as a tool. And that is really what it is to become a master. Thank you so much, Jody. Let's see, Dakota.
Hi everyone. Um, so I'd just like to talk about both experiences. So with the rainbow, the first time looking at it, I just was like thinking of the sequence of the colors that that it goes in. And then when I looked at it through my DNA intelligence, it was like a crystal flow with like silver specks in it. So it was just, and like I could see where it was going, but I never saw where the end was. So it was just twirling and twirling and twirling, and it was just like, and it like, and that's the thing, it didn't like siphon off or anything. It just kept going until we moved on to the next thing, which was really amazing. And then but then what happened with the second exercise is that so the emotion I wanted to kind of like transcend from was sadness, and then that was replaced by joy. And then when I saw joy, I saw crimson, but it was a crimson that was still flowing in the same way that the crystal rainbow was, but it was more of a mist, you know? So
Yes.
that was so joy was like this crimson mist that was just forever in like motion, like constantly flowing. And then when you started activating all the DMT codes, like I could feel that it's almost like in my brain there was like old hardware, you know, like old computers, and then like that was released, and then like new high tech computers with like just screens everywhere, and like blue lights was like installed. And then it was like, well, I think when you activated the ninth one, it was like, okay, our command center is now moving. It's no longer in the brain, it's now in the heart. And it's like, okay. So that's what we're going to be doing things from now, you know. So it was like, oh my God, like this is like, it's something I had been wanting and practicing and trying. This time through the process, I was like, I was watching it happen. I was seeing it unfold. It was like, it was, I think, definitely my higher self took over. And it's like, you know, that's the old way of doing things. And now we're moving into the new way. So it was really phenomenal. So I just wanted to share that.
That was an amazing share. And what I was hearing as you were working, it just reminded me of what's possible when we let the frequency lead the way, when we let our operating system lead the way. And we have the experience, and I think that's the most important thing, is have the experience and then let our consciousness understand it later, because the experience of it is always what's going to start to lead the way. And that's what I love about the technology, the scalar frequencies and the codes and everything that we work with, because it really does turn on that 12-strand DNA system. But because we don't know what that experience is consciously, it starts to happen way before our consciousness even knows that it's happening. And then all of a sudden we have an experience and we're like, oh my gosh, that was so amazing. And it's almost like, how did that happen? It's because the technology starts to work and it's working us. And it's kind of a weird way of saying it, but our DNA is the most advanced technology there is. And we think that we're in control, but you guys, it's the other way around. When we allow that technology to turn on and we surrender and we allow our consciousness to just kind of have this place of just attuning to the frequency of what's happening, all of a sudden we start going twice as fast because we get out of the way, right? We just get out of the way. And that's what it is to stay in that fourth level. Thank you so much for sharing. That was so beautiful. Serena.
Well, having done the rainbow thing so many times, today something different happened. I was so aware of the effort level it took to create the rainbow versus just letting it happen. I mean, I was like, oh my God, it was night and day. I could just see the difference. And I thought, I've never quite figured that out before. Obviously, the trying to create it, I've always just thought of one, but I was aware of the trying today. And that was really interesting. And then when we did the emotion and the feeling, that was lovely in that when I got to the feeling, it was so soft and just, just the space of allowing rather than having to do anything. And it was just lovely.
Thank you so much. I'm going to come back to that because if we have time, I'm going to share my dream from last night, and it's directly related to kind of what you're talking about. So I'll hold tight on that. Kathy.
I experienced the seven in such a different way than I ever have before. It was totally in a new frontier for me. I just wanted to share that when you were doing the codes, the seven really stood out for me. And I really connected to that direct line to the divine.
I love that. It's so beautiful. That's a fun one. That's really where we all want to get to, is that we get that clarity and that we trust in the clarity of being able to hear the guidance, because that's a huge part I'm not even going to say in the beginning, it's the journey. And of course, the closer our consciousness is kind of hanging out to that frequency of source, the clearer the information is going to get, and there's less interference. And that's really when we start to have things go really fast, is how pure the frequency is between where we're holding our consciousness and the intelligence of source. And because the more interference there is, of course, we're going to have more loops and programs and time and all that stuff. Isabel. Thank you, Kathy.
Hi, hello. I had an amazing experience. Thank you very much. So yes, I saw the rainbow completely different. All the rays came in with a tube of light and it kind of spinning up and all these things. And then with the exercise, which it posed a question for you. The question will be, how do you manifest? Because it shattered every conception of the normal manifestation. You write I want this, I want that, I intend this, I intend that. So when the 9 got activated, it kind of felt like, why do you need all these law of attractions and your papers and your affirmations and your preconceived ideas of what you are going to do next? So it completely say, okay, I surrender. And obviously I've intended for a certain thing, and the programming came in as I wasn't accepting my talents. And once I accept them, which I believe I'm doing it now, everything will come to me, but not as I expected. So everything is just zero now. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
What I just heard as you, I getting chills, as you shared that is that as you own the gift that your talents, your gifts, that you'll be informed in those, right? And so instead of, oh, I have these gifts and this is what I'm going to go do, it's, oh, I have these gifts, how can I be of service? And that the divine will come in and start to guide the way and open up the doors of where. So I think it's okay to have the intention is a frequency activator. That's really what it is. And then it gives us a consciousness to focus on the frequency outside of our programming so that we have somewhere to go to move outside of what we're experiencing. That's what intention is. So whatever we put there is just a tool for our consciousness to use. That's really what it is. So attention is a tool, consciousness is a tool, intuition is a tool, and all of these tools are there to help us remember how to operate our divine operating system. And that is the journey, right? It's learning to operate this beautiful technology that is inside of us. It's really exciting. Thank you for sharing. All right, so let's see where we are in time. Oh, we're at time. So if you guys want to stay on and I'll share my dream. I don't know why, it's so powerful. And so I really am excited to share it. So if you'd like to stay on and listen to my dream, I invite you to do that. And if you have to go, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I so appreciate it. I will send out the recording on Thursday in the email. It'll be posted on YouTube as well. And yeah, and then stay tuned for a couple special offers that we have to take the work deeper if you're interested in that. So thank you, everyone. And I'm just going to keep on recording because I think it's worth recording. So I had a breathwork session with Christian Minson. He is the breathwork. So you guys have heard me talk about him. He is the breathwork facilitator for Greg Braden when Greg Braden has retreats or present when he's by himself, not when he's with other people, just when he has events on his own. Christian does his breath work. And anyways, he was in Denver and I went to his breathwork thing at the Salt Caves. And I was so how he does it is you go through it for 45 minutes and then you do your 4 minute, however long you can do it. Mine usually around 4 minute breath hold. And then you go into the receiving. And so he gives you space for about 15 minutes to receive. And in the receiving, I'm going to get to my dream because I have to do the precursor. In my receiving, I was I was walking and all of a sudden there was like a slit in reality. So I could see like the clouds and the ground. And then all of a sudden there was like this slit in reality and there was this ramp coming out of it. And I started walking up the ramp. And once I got inside the ramp, I realized I was inside of a spaceship. And as soon as I got there, the slit that was going this way, like activated the spaceship and it like went straight up like this. And I was inside of a really long, skinny tube. And some of you have heard me talk about the blue men. The blue men are been in my life since I was about 5. And they came and they told me that it was time to bring back the transverse element. And I knew that it was coming back. I've gotten a message before, but they showed me exactly what it was doing and how it was a huge part of transcending the physical into the multidimensional. And I was actually given another, I don't even want to call it an element. So now this is the 4th one I've been given. I think the first was the transverse element. Then some of you have experienced the golden lotus. I was given one when we were at the Sedona retreat. I was given, and I actually saw that it was not a flower. And so for those of you that were at that retreat, how we thought it was a flower, what they showed me was that it was whatever you projected your consciousness. So I was projecting it as a flower because that's what I knew from the golden lotus. And they go, oh no, see what happens if you project it as water, it shifts to water. As silver, it shifted to silver. So it's a shapeshifter, which is really fun. And then I was given the fourth one, and I'm guessing there's going to be one more, but we'll talk about that later. So anyways, in that, the last one that they gave me, it looked like it was like a ball. And every time you would trace your hands around it, electricity would follow your hands. Have you know those balls? Have you guys seen those toys or whatever they are? It was like that. And so I haven't, right now it's just hanging out. I know that it'll come out at some point. So what I got, so I came to, and of course I'm like with all these people, I'm like, yeah, I was just like on the spaceship and here are these people. But I kind of was driving home and I was like, okay, this is connected to the way our cells are ascending. So last night I have this dream, and I'm not going to go into the whole entire dream, but there was a point where I was in the back of this car and I was looking behind me, and all of a sudden I saw the big slit in reality. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's this spaceship, it's this spaceship. And I knew what it was. And then all of a sudden, because it started like almost like becoming like a tornado that was going sideways, and then it turned and it went up like this, and it started like sucking all of reality like into the spaceship. But I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And the next thing I knew, I was like inside the school, and there was these humans that were also like ETs, and they were had these this is like so weird, but they had these little spray guns, so they were like spraying people with this which I think was the third element that they gave, or the third thing that they gave me. And they were spraying people, and they could tell who was holding consciousness outside of their programming and who wasn't, based on how when the stuff landed on the people, how their body reacted to it. And so finally they got to me and they started spraying this on me, and I could immediately feel my emotions wanting to be afraid, right? Because I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? And then I felt my consciousness take over, going, oh no, that's you don't have to have the experience from there. Just allow yourself to have the experience of what it is from the 12 strand DNA. And all of a sudden I felt my consciousness like went in and went underneath the emotion or the chemical that was releasing in my body, and it pulled it up, put it inside my pineal gland, and my whole entire body went into the fifth state. And then all of a sudden I started walking, and I was just in that frequency where I wasn't observing, I was just in the experience. And it was the most amazing experience. Like I'm still in it. And I hope you can feel it as I'm like kind of going back and feel the frequency of the experience of my dream. But I got up and I really sat in what does this mean, and how can we use emotion as an attention tool? So that is one of my biggest focuses. I'm going to be reteaching the foundations course in a new way. I totally laid it out. And a big part of it is really going to be what we just talked about, is how to master consciousness in these tools. And so for those of you that have taken it before, just stay tuned for something on that. And then if you've never taken it before, I definitely invite you to do so, because I, gosh, I feel like it's been a while since I've like been super passionate about just really like how amazing this work is. And sometimes is when you live it on a day-to-day basis, you kind of forget about it. And I just love how we get these reminders of how important this work really is. And I'm just so honored to walk with you guys and experience it with you. So thank you for listening to my story. I've been dying to share it with somebody. Anyways, well, I just love you all so much, and I hope to see you very soon, and reach out anytime if you have any questions. Love you all.